Welcome. This is Rabbi Sachs from the Chai Center. Welcome to the Chai Academy. Chai Academy is where we go through many different topics of Judaism and and many topics of Judaism, and we try to clarify many concepts. So we are this would be the third course. Remember, each one is independent of the other, so you can listen to this one without being concerned that you won't understand. However, I would encourage you to go to thechaicenter.com/Chai Academy, and you can watch all the others that have previously been placed there. We are the third course, the third class in the course called Teshuva, Repentance, Return. So we're just a few days away from Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, where the flavor of this time is Teshuva, and so therefore we're going to choose to talk about Teshuva. Now we this is once again the third class. Good afternoon, Eileen, and the idea of Teshuva once again is confessing. The idea of Teshuva is that you have to be sincere, and it doesn't matter really what you've done. If you're sincere and you confess and you itemize and articulate and implore God, you will be forgiven and it will be forgotten. Very unlike a human being. A human being forgives but may not forget. God forgives and chooses to forget. Not that God can forget. An elephant never forgets. Can you imagine? God doesn't forget, but God chooses to forget, and it's wiped. The slate is wiped clean. I think that is the idea. And how do you know you're forgiven? So we discussed that if you are challenged again by the same thing that you it was a pitfall. And last time you failed, this time you're challenged, and you do not succumb to the challenge, submit to once again to the error, the faux pas. That's how you know you're actually forgiven in this world and it's all done, etc. We spoke about the Rosh Hashanah as the opportune time because it's when God is judging the world. Rosh Hashanah, God judges the world, and Yom Kippur, God forgives us for our sins. Now, today's class in particular is we're going to talk about we're going to get into Rosh Hashanah and Kippur a little bit as well, the magic of those days. We're going to explore that further, but we need to discuss what Maimonides said. Maimonides says that as follows. He lays down this rule, but then he qualifies it. He says that when God looks at an individual, decides to, and most likely on Rosh Hashanah, decides to look at an individual, and he sees that this individual, man or woman, a child, by the way, is not challenged, a child doesn't have that issue until they are bar mitzvah, respectively. Hi, Susan. By the way, Eileen, Susan, thank you for your donation yesterday and the other day. Thank you. So the God looks and God says, okay, this person has more merits than demerits. I'm going to give him life, a good year, etc., good life. If you have more merits than demerits, more demerits than merits, God says, okay, oh boy, this is not good, and they're going to have to up the ante, and maybe there'll be challenges, etc. If you're half and half, then you consider the intermediate person, and if you do one more merit, one more mitzvah, you tip the scale into the positive side. If you do commit an infraction, a folly, then you'll go to the negative side. Right? So Maimonides says that we should always view ourselves, our scale is that it's equal. Always view ourselves, we're on the precipice, right? We can fall off a cliff if we do one more demerit. That's how we should view ourselves. And he says, and not only just individually, but communally, globally, right? We should view ourselves too as being on the complete edge, and what the scale is equal. And doing one positive mitzvah will create tremendous things. Denying God that joy and doing something negative will bring on not such good things. That's how we should view ourselves. However, he says it's not quantity. And that's why this is God's domain. It's not quantity that a person, you have 1,500 good deeds racked up this year and 1,500 negative deeds. It doesn't work like that. One good deed could be worth multiple negative deeds. So it's more of a qualitative aspect as opposed to quantitatively. So for example, it says in the Mishnah, you save one life, you save one world. You help one person get back on their feet, that could be worth who knows how many demerits, how many infractions. So, and that's why it's God's domain. Because if we could count to say, okay, well, I did this good and I did this bad, I know where I'm at. It doesn't work that way. It works with it qualitatively and quantitatively. So it's more the verse is quantitatively. So it's not the count of mitzvahs, it's the quality of mitzvahs. It's not the count of infractions, it's the quality of the infraction. Right? If you bow down to an idol, a bona fide idol, that's got to be worth, it's got to be horrific in terms of how much it's worth. Gourmet verses. Right. Then Maimonides says one of the worst things a person could do, a human being could do, is regret the good. He says if a person says, I've been so good, I've done so many positive good deeds, and I regret the merits that I have, I regret the merits that I've accumulated, what value, it's almost like you become apathetic. What value, what did I accomplish, what did I really do, etc. I don't even care that I performed them. I wish I didn't perform them. Somewhere along that attitude, which is a terrible attitude to have, right? You lose all those merits. So you can gladly say to God, God, I offer these merits. I don't regret these merits that I've done, and I need your help, please, in honor of me, in honor of my parents, grandparents, ancestors, Abraham, Sarah, Rachel, Leah, etc. But for you to say, I'm done, and I don't care anymore, and I wish I never gave all that charity, because then I would have, $500,000. You lose that merit. So Maimonides cautions one to be very careful. Be very careful on what their attitude is. Now, we spoke earlier, if you have more merits, once again, qualitatively, you're called righteous and you'll have a good judgment. This is what we're talking about on Rosh Hashanah. If a person has more demerits, God says, that was, you've been a bad boy, you've been a bad girl, daughter of God, son of God, and therefore, I'm going to have to take you to task. But if somebody is equal footing, God actually, on Rosh Hashanah, God says, I'm going to suspend judgment right now. Right? And I can't imagine there are many on equal footing, but once again, I'm not God. I don't know how much this is worth, how much that is worth, right? It's almost like a spiritual game of The Price is Right, if you think about it. So the person who is exactly has the same amount of merits, demerits qualitatively, right? God says, I'm going to suspend judgment, and I'm going to see where you're holding on Yom Kippur. So Maimonides, right, vintage Maimonides, traditional Maimonides, he says that's how you should view yourself. Once again, view yourself that the scale is even. and you got to push that scale down in the right column, in the right way. And so therefore, when Yom Kippur comes around, God will judge you for the positive. He says that is the best way. So these days, Rosh Hashanah through Yom Kippur, right? These are so powerful because God either judges you for good, judges you for bad, God forbid, or suspends judgment for now. So you got 10 days, and my manager says that's the approach to take. Now, somebody mentioned here, Susan mentioned that it's emotionally unhealthy to have regrets. So I think let's just touch upon that for a moment. This has nothing to do with Teshuva really, but it's just to do with being a mensch. Anytime you do something good, whether you gained or didn't gain, whether you lost, if you did something good, if a person does something good, ultimately it's never lost. That good energy, we're taught, this is a Kabbalistic concept, that good energy remains in your hemisphere, remains in your atmosphere, and will at some point, this world, next world, etc., come back to greet you and hug you, embrace you, and help you, assist you, right? So if every time you did something good, you get rewarded immediately, and every time you do something negative, you get punished immediately, it's then there's no free will. You won't have space. God wouldn't allow us to breathe. So therefore, you do something good, it may not show right now, but that's part of how God set up the world. But it will show. It's never lost. The good is never lost. The bad can be cleared and cleaned by Teshuva. So that's how these things work. Good, God can never take it away unless you regret them. And by the way, I am sure, just knowing the way this Judaism thingy works, that if you do something good, and then you regret them, and then do Teshuva that you regretted them, they'll be put back right back in your bank account. I'm positive. Great question. What if you try to do good but it turns out negative? So I believe that's Shakespeare, right? The road to hell is paved with good intentions, but that's Shakespeare. Judaism is, you try to do good, it didn't end up good, it doesn't detract from your attempt. That's very clear in the Talmud and other places, that a good attempt is a good attempt. It turned out to be a good college try that went nowhere, but one is still rewarded, and one is still it's still a good thing, even if it turns out negative, right? Yeah, you wouldn't know Judaism is a hopeful religion, by talking to some Jews, the tale of woe. But let's move on. So he says that's one of the reasons why we blow the shofar. There's many reasons we blow the shofar. One is it's a biblical command. And if there was no other reason other than it being a biblical command, we would blow the shofar. But there are other reasons. Another reason Maimonides talks about is that the shofar is basically, you blow the shofar, you hear the shofar being blown, right? You hear the shofar being blown. It's designed to say, wake up from your slumber. Wake up from your sleep. You got only a few days until you're judged completely, until judgment is over. Wake up, right? Arise, stir, get up, and realize that now's not a time for vanity. Now's not a time for emptiness. Now's a time to really try and communicate with God, connect with God, and ask God for a good year and to forgiveness, etc. So the shofar is to let you know that you got 10 days. Right. So therefore that's why it is so important, these 10 days. Now, Maimonides says let's take a global look. that if the entire world, if you view the entire world on a scale, and it has exactly exactly good and exactly bad, the entire world. If we tip the scale for the world, our good deed tips the scale for the world, tremendous things happen. Our one action, says Maimonides, can change the fate of everyone. Our one negative action, this is where we have to view it, he says, is a negative action can change the fate of everyone. Right? So that way we realize that we must be responsible, not just for ourselves, and not just for our small family, and not just our circle of friends, which is still small, no matter how big they are. And in Facebook, you can have up to 5,000, right? But no, we realize we're responsible for everybody else, and therefore our one good deed can tip the global scale, and all could be set straight and all could be set right. And he says, therefore, in this time of Rosh Hashanah through Yom Kippur, and once again, I always say that make sure that it's Rosh Hashanah, not Rosh Hashanah. So now we're like 10 days before Rosh Hashanah or so. We're 10 days, we're something like that. We're really getting close. So this period of time, we need to increase in our connection with God. We need to communicate with God better. And the way we do it is we spend more time in prayer. Right? We spend more time. Pray a little more. Say an additional psalm. If you don't pray 3 times a day, start praying. If you don't pray once a day, start praying once a day. If you pray twice a day, so pray 3 times. If you only pray once, do twice, etc. Just up your ante. Teshuva. Think about it. Do some introspection. Now, don't wait for Rosh Hashanah. Do some introspection. Think about how can I be better? That I don't get along with my mother-in-law, right? And it causes pain to my spouse. Right? Try and set that score straight now, etc. So Teshuva, introspection. Where can I improve? That's really what Teshuva is in a nutshell. I think if I was asked on the street, can you encapsulate Teshuva on a few words? Yes. Where can I improve? The last one is tzedakah. So once again, Susan, Eileen, yesterday, our campaign, and the other day, Susan, tzedakah. Tzedakah is that you're showing God that you're being kind to others, and you're drawing down a reciprocal response that I'll be kind to you. So that is the energy of this time, especially through Yom Kippur. We should always do Teshuva, Tefillah, Tzedakah at any time. Especially we don't know which day we're going to pass, and we want to be in the best possible position. We want to really have leverage, up in heaven, in the tribunal, the heavenly court. But now, this is the way to secure a good year. Now, Maimonides says something interesting. He says that for an individual, if you've done a sin, Maimonides says as follows, that when your sins are being weighed, realize that the first 3 sins that you've done don't even come into the equation. Because you sin once, God overlooks. You sin twice, God overlooks. You sin 3 times, God is now suspect. Your fourth time that you sin, then God says, okay, let me see 1, 2, 3 again. So he says, so the first 3 sins really don't have to count. So if you do teshuva for that first sin, and that's wiped clean, your second sin becomes your first. And you do teshuva for 10 sins, they're wiped clean, and now your sins move up, and 1, 2, 3 don't count, the fourth one does. So one should really do some introspection, and that's why you need to itemize your sins. It's because you need to get rid of them. You just need to, because once you itemize them sincerely ask for forgiveness, they're gone. And then you work on the next one. Maimonides says something very, very refreshing. Maimonides says that every single person has a portion in the world to come. Every single person will go to heaven, will have Olam Haba. Every person. Now, there may be a way station on the way, right? Two different spellings of the way. There may be a wait station on the way, where like a person may have to. So there's a few things. Maimonides doesn't really discuss it here, but if we can just bear with me a moment, is that there are three things that kind of can happen to the soul. One is the soul goes straight to heaven, right? Gets to bask in the glory of the divine presence, etc. The second thing that can happen, and heaven, and you're in heaven, etc. The second thing that can happen is God says, you know what? I'm going to send you back down. I'm going to send your soul back down. I'm going to reincarnate your soul. So that way, and it's a kindness, that way, try it again. I didn't particularly care for how you did some of the things. Some of them you were good, some of them you were negative. Once again, this is God's domain, so I can't speak to what. But you're going to go back down, and you're going to go back down, and you're going to be reincarnated, and you're going to try this again. Right? Just like a child, right? He climbs up, goes on the ladder, right? And then does it again. So we're back in this. We're back in the circus, the earthly circus. We're back in the rat race, and we try and do better this time. And we're trying to improve even marginally. The third thing God can do is to say, okay, you're going to have to go to purgatory. Purgatory is not hell. Hell is, Jews don't believe in eternal damnation, by the way. But you're going to go into purgatory. Before you can get to heaven, right, have an option. Send you back down, which is a kindness, or it's not going to help you going back down. Your soul is too tainted, and it has to go to the refinery, has to go into the kiln, and whatever that means. And you're going to purgatory, and then when you come out of purgatory, whether it's for a day, an hour, a week, and this, I don't know exactly how time is judged up there. It's all qualitatively, not quantitatively there either. And then you can go to heaven. So those are the three things that can happen. But ultimately, says Maimonides, everybody gets to go to heaven. Everybody. Maimonides says even a wicked person, they may have to go to purgatory. They may have to have reincarnation. They will end up in heaven. And Maimonides says that's true of every human being. It doesn't matter if you're Jew, you're Gentile, doesn't matter what your race is, what your creed is, what your belief is. Ultimately, you will go to heaven. There's places in heaven for everybody, and everybody can fit. And it's a soul, by the way, doesn't take up room. A soul doesn't have an ego. So because it doesn't have an ego, it doesn't take up room. A human being has an ego, so it takes up room. So ultimately, everybody goes to heaven, and he says, and even the wicked of the wicked. Talmud tells us, right? The Talmud tells us as follows: that there is an exception to the rule, and the exception to the rule is if there's a person who's wicked, and that person is called the multitudes to sin. So not only are they wicked, which if you're wicked, you go up and then you get your purgatory or get your reincarnation or whatever, then you go to heaven. But if you've caused the multitudes to sin, so I'm going to give an example out there, and unabashed, Hitler. Hitler was a wicked, wicked, wicked man. But you know what? He influenced so many others to be wicked. Right? He has no reprieve. Right? That's not so. Somebody, so as the Talmud says, somebody who's wicked and causes the multitudes, not just influence one or two people, but influences many, many, many people to sin, that person never gets out of purgatory. So eternal damnation. But eternal damnation that is thrown about, banted about, is actually for the very, very select few. And as Maimonides clearly states, heaven is there for those that wait. Right? So now, why is reincarnation a kindness? Right? Why is it a kindness? It's a kindness as follows. If a person goes into purgatory, when they come out of purgatory, for that qualitative moment they're there, then they have to start at level 1 of heaven. If you get sent back down and you marginally improve, you may start heaven at a much higher level. So you come down and you improve on this, improve on that. So instead of going to purgatory, or instead of going to heaven right away at level 4, you could go in at level 34, 104, 1004. I'm using this as an example. I don't know if they use those figures, but so that's why it's a kindness, because you get to avoid purgatory A and B. You can go into you did well this time around. You can go into a lofty place in heaven, and you don't have to work your way up, because that's what happens. That's what happens. You go into a level of heaven, and then on a yard side, the anniversary of passing, you ascend. Your children or friends or family and or community do a favor for you, in honor of you rather. They give tzedakah in your honor. They do a mitzvah in your honor. You ascend. And that's why people give charity in honor of this, in honor of that, in memory of this, in memory of that. It helps their loved ones ascend. So coming down again is a tremendous favor, because when you're ready to go up, you can go up to a much loftier place. That's it for today. We'll talk about Maimonides. Maimonides will tomorrow give us a list of really bad no-nos. So we know idol worship, and we know murder, and we know incest, and we know taking an oath in vain. But Maimonides says there are some that God really doesn't like, and Teshuva, you're really going to have to work at it. So God bless you. We will see you tomorrow. And by the way, the Friendship Circle, the special needs programs that we have, nyfriendshipcircle.com. So we had that fundraiser. We had a goal of 20,000, and we did surpass it. So whoever helped, thank you so much. So we have a little bit of money to work with. God bless. Bye.